Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines, coming to you from the West Coast. Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're kicking off this Monday night big NBA slate here, Nate, with a Phoenix Suns visiting the Los Angeles Clippers video. Make sure you do check out Nate's great article up on playpicks.com as well. Has some best bets and player props in there for you. Like and subscribe to that page, as we've also got another couple of videos up for you today, including that player props video we love to bring you each and every weekday. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com and find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight, Nate. Let's get into it.
Yeah, the Suns, despite the continued absence of Devin Booker and Frank Kaminsky and DeAndre Ayton being questionable, are 3.5-point favorites at the Clippers because we got Paul George and Nick Batum questionable. On the other side, the total has dropped from 212.5 to 210.5 at the moment. So we'll keep an eye on that. Looking at the other games here on Monday night, we got Kings +4 at the Raptors. We got Heat +5 at Cavs. Warriors are -4 at the Pacers. Rockets +11 at the Hawks. The Bucks -1 at Celtics. We're going to break that one down. In a separate episode, the Sixers, coming off a win over the Warriors, are -3 at the Grizz. Hornets +2.5 at Mavericks. Total dropping there, surprisingly. Wizards +4.5 at the Nuggets. And then we get to this game where the Suns just continue to take care of business. They haven't had a lot of success against the Clippers since bringing Chris Paul into the fold. But you look at the recent results and why they've lost to the Clippers, it's very much been the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George show. When they lose their most recent loss, it was 60 points from those two guys and 12 points from the rest of the starting lineup, I believe, in that loss. Then you go back this 2 losses ago, Paul George had 39 points on 15 for 24 field goal shooting to facilitate that win. You take Kawhi out of the equation, the Suns won 109-101 in their most recent meeting in late April. I think that's kind of what we're looking at tonight. I mean, not only is Kawhi out, obviously, but a few guys out for the Suns, a few guys out probably for the Clippers. They're at a rest disadvantage here, so wouldn't be surprising to see Paul George take a seat. And if we're talking about, a lot of reserve players, a lot of ancillary guys trying to step up against the Suns, I really trust Phoenix's ability to game plan against more one-dimensional players like Luke Kennard or Marcus Morris and be able to hold them in check. So I think even without some of their key guys, even without DeAndre Ayton, I think the Suns are going to keep rolling here. -3 is not a spread that I'm scared of. I would lean under in terms of how this game breaks down, but I think that, I said to you, I think so many people are out that we are in danger of this just turning into kind of a back and forth affair with limited defense, almost like a summer league game where it's just about hoisting threes and seeing what happens. So I think if it drops even further, you could take the over 208 maybe or lower. But I think the bet here is just the Suns and maybe looking at the Clippers to go under their team total, especially if you think Paul George is not going to play.
Yeah, I mean, the Paul George news is it's surprising to me that this spread isn't just going up a bit in favor, in sort of preparation for him not playing. He's been the end all be all for them this season, specifically on offense. Their offense is just plain bad, right? They're averaging about in the bottom 10 in terms of points per game, and their offensive rating still is pretty inefficient as well, still at about 106 points a game, like I was saying. So, and when he doesn't play, I mean, it's even worse, honestly. And you look at some of their wins, and the recent trend has been, they've won, a few. They won 2 out of their last 3, beating the Blazers and the Celtics. They won 3 in a row rather, because they beat the Blazers, Celtics, and Magic, covering in 2 of those. But none of those teams are good, by the way. And any of the teams that you look at, the Clippers beating as of late, they're also not good, right? I mean, they beat the Pistons, they lost to the Magic, they lost to the Mavs and beat them once. They even lost to the Pellies in that time frame in there. So it's all, it's not, to me right now, without Kawhi Leonard, this team is just plain not good in terms of the Clippers. And that's where I start, because even without, Devin Booker, I'm really impressed with what the Suns are doing. It's not just been one person stepping up in his absence. Since he's been out, they've got 8 players averaging double figures in that time frame. Chris Paul is only at about 13.5 points a game, but averaging 10 assists and really just controlling the offense with about 110 individual offensive rating there. And other guys stepping up in the absence of, Kaminsky, Saric, and Ayton all sort of being out in terms of their centers. Cam Johnson is actually their second leading scorer since D Book went down. So he's stepping up and scoring a few more points inside the 3-point line, which is really good for them. Someone standing at 6'10" that they can finally use down low a little bit more. And even if Paul George does play, I still just don't trust this team, the Clippers, to be able to score. So yeah, I would even consider the under in their team total, and look at a bunch of other unders for them as well, because without Paul George as well, they're already pretty bad offense. Averages even fewer points, as in the last 5 games he's played 3 of those, and in the 2 games he missed, they failed to score more than 105 points. So it's about what they cannot do on offense more than anything. I would love to take the under in this game, but it keeps dropping on us. Starting, I think it opened at about 213 there. It's down to about 210.5 into some places. And I feel like Phoenix can get their point total. It is going to be I think a sort of clawed out, nasty game in where Chris Paul is controlling the tempo, and the Clippers are fine to play at that tempo. I think the only thing that I would like to see, if DeAndre Ayton plays tonight, I'm going to hit the Suns even harder. I'm going to wait to see till he plays. Because for him, it's about getting those second chance points, and that's what both of these teams, specifically the Clippers, do really poorly. Is allowing opponents to get offensive rebounds, allowing opponents to get second chance points, and that's something that DeAndre Ayton does, at a huge clip. So he's a huge difference maker in this one. I'm not concerned if Paul George plays or not. To be honest, I don't think he has enough around him, and I do think the inclusion of DeAndre Ayton in tonight's game would be a huge like double digit victory for Phoenix, and the difference in that game.
Yeah, I mean, George is looking doubtful, so I think we can kind of project what we think the offense will look like without him. And it's a small sample size this season of 3 games, to your point, but true to my theory, they are shooting a much higher percentage from 3 without him, and just kind of chucking more often. You see more assists per game. The scoring is actually up 6 points to 111, and the defensive rating plummets from 104 to 117. So I think I'm actually feeling even more confident about the over if PG sits. I think we'll see it drop. I think people will assume, the Clippers aren't going to be able to even get to 100 points without Paul George. And they're going to come out, the other guys looking to prove that they can still score. And I don't think we worry about Phoenix's offense at all. I think the absence of Ayton could really help in terms of the Clippers offense. So I think, you look at a total of around 207, 208, where I think it might close. And that over is looking pretty appealing. You could also consider just teasing that down to make sure it's down there and getting the Suns at a pick'em line and feel very confident about the Suns winning still, even though the Clippers might surprise by keeping it a little more high scoring than it's projected.
Yeah, that's fair too, and it's interesting. We brought this point up the last time we covered the Suns when they were taking on the second of that the second game against the Warriors, and how much worse they are on defense. Actually, worse on defense when Devin Booker doesn't play in that sense. So I think it's interesting that someone that's good on offense is also someone that affects their defense that way. It could be over versus under today, especially as this thing keeps dropping. But I think best bet tonight for sure, just hit the Suns against a Clippers team that I think is being overvalued for some reason tonight, especially not even playing that well at home. So at any rate, that is all the time we have for this one. Make sure you guys are liked and subscribed to that page. Got a couple other videos up for you today, including that player props one. And until we see you next, happy betting.